Hello and welcome to Let's Review. I seem to have been doing a lot of digging in the crates recently. Still, I suppose that's what I get for playing long games for the channel. Regardless, I figured I might as well take the opportunity to do something at least a little bit topical, as we once again go digging in the crate. The PC launch of Batman Arkham Knight was a disaster, and for once I'm not even using hyperbole. WB were forced to pull it from sale due to it being completely unplayable on the vast majority of systems. 4 months and a lot of patches later, it's now back on sale, and according to a lot of reports, it's still basically unplayable on a great many systems. As such, I figured now was as good a time as any to talk about the best game in the Arkham series. Ladies and gentlemen, Arkham Asylum. I was under the impression that most people found Arkham City to be the superior game. Yes, but I'm not most people. To my mind, City's just too unfocused, whereas Asylum has the focus it needs. But I'll talk about City another time. For now, I will say that Asylum begins with Batman having just captured the Joker. And since Batman is Batman, he's completely ignoring the criminal justice system, and he's just taking him straight to Arkham. Is it not a little backwards to begin with the villain being captured by the hero? It would be if not for the fact that it was part of the Joker's plan to get caught all along. Yeah, in that old particular cliche, rather than just deciding to sneak into Arkham, the Joker figured the best ploy was to let a lunatic dressed as a bat punch him in the face a few times first. Because, let's face it, breaking into Arkham is not difficult, because Arkham is the worst. In what regard? Well, they've never actually permanently cured a single patient, about half their staff have gone mad and turned into villains, and they seem to have about 3 or 4 escapes a week. Plus, to make things worse, at the moment, due to a recent fire in Blackgate Prison, a fairly sizable chunk of Joker's gang is currently being stored there. Yeah, Arkham sucks. As a result, within literally minutes of arriving, the Joker has escaped with the aid of Harley Quinn and has released the vast majority of his goons. Which of course means that the lunatics are running the asylum? Bingo! As plots go, it's basically just an excuse to have Batman trapped in an enclosed environment with a bunch of his most famous villains so that he can defeat them one by one. And to be fair, the plot does manage to work in Bane, Croc, Zsasz, Poison Ivy, and Scarecrow all pretty naturally. Admittedly, that's naturally just they've all been locked up there and they're kind of pissed off about it. Though, one thing I have always wondered, if you're going to lock up someone like Scarecrow, whose power comes entirely from his fear gas, why on God's green earth would you keep a supply of that gas on the island? Shouldn't you, I don't know, destroy it? Preferably along with the rest of his equipment? Because there is no way those giant finger syringes are legal to own. Well, that is entirely due to narrative convenience. If they could not rapidly acquire their equipment, they would make for poor enemies. Yeah, but it doesn't make sense. And a man dressing as a bat in order to fight crime does. No, but that's suspension of disbelief. This is just dumb. The game really has 2 modes of gameplay, the combat and the stealth. The combat is pretty good. It's got a block counter system that has since been copied by a great many games, and you basically use that whenever you encounter a group of random thugs and you just beat them into unconsciousness. Not terribly subtle, but it gets the job done. The stealth, on the other hand, occurs whenever you face armed goons. Since Batman is not indestructible, despite what his fanbase seems to think, he has to stick to the shadows, use stealth, and use his gadgets to gain an edge and carefully take out armed enemies. Or if you're like me, you just wait around and hang them all upside down from gargoyles because, frankly, that's just really funny. Why exactly does a psychiatric facility have gargoyles? Wouldn't they be somewhat counterproductive? Oh yeah, I mean, keep in mind that Arkham Asylum was built by a man who very soon went on to become one of its patients. As such, the whole place has this wonderfully gothic feel, and it really does seem like it was designed by a madman. It's full of dark corners and shadows and places where you can hide and leap out and punch the mentally disturbed. Because Batman is a terrible human being. What, you mean you don't think that repeated punches to the head are the way to solve mental instabilities? Insofar as they also heal broken bones, yeah. While I joke about it, it does actually make for really good, solid gameplay, but to me the thing that really makes this game work as well as it does is the casting. Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy return to their roles from the DC animated universe, and frankly, they are just pitch perfect. Hamill is by far my favourite Joker, and Conroy is also my favourite Batman. The two of them just bring things to the roles that no actor really has apart from them, and it's absolutely wonderful to hear them together once again. Unfortunately, that kind of leads on to the game's weaker element, which is the boss fights. And what exactly is wrong with them? Honestly, they're just kind of boring. They have the classic problem of a lot of boss fights in that once you figure out the attack strings that the bosses use and how to get around them, all you have to do is repeat the same actions until the bosses are defeated, usually requiring 3 initiations of the same attack sequence. Ultimately, they're just not very interesting, though thankfully there aren't that many of them, so as a result it doesn't drag the game down too far. Arkham Asylum also has the advantage of being a very dense game. I assume you don't mean that in the context of being dumb. No, I mean dense in the sense of having a lot of stuff crammed into it. Within the game, there are quite a few Riddler challenges. These can involve finding Riddler trophies, or the far more interesting occasions when the Riddler simply sets you a puzzle and asks you to find an object in the world that you have to scan that will unlock bits of the glossary. And the glossary entries cover much more well-known characters, like, say, the Penguin, who doesn't appear in the game, but it also covers substantially more obscure Batman characters, and as someone like me who's at best a casual Batman fan, it's nice to be able to read about some of these characters that I know absolutely nothing about. Throughout the game, of course, you also begin to unravel the Joker's plan and try and find out the reason why he's returned to Arkham. So he wasn't just feeling homesick then? No. Arkham Asylum is a great game, and in all honesty, it probably is the best superhero game ever made. It has the advantages of fantastic performances from returning actors from the cartoon series, and everything about the tone is just right. While I do strongly believe that the series went downhill after this one, I'll talk about that some other time. Now, if you'll excuse me, I feel like watching the best Batman show currently airing on TV. Arrow. I'll see you later.